I love all my shows. We talk college football with a number of contributors, and they all do a great job in their own right. This is one that's got its special place. There's no doubt about there. We got the wholesome one on the line to talk to you. There he is, and we appreciate everybody being flexible with the time. The wholesome one was kind enough, flexible enough to make some accommodations for me. So here we are. Wholesome one, how you doing today?
Doing well, man. It's been a good week down in Coral Gables for the University of Miami, and can't wait to get to talk about it, man.
Yeah, so we would invite everyone to leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics there in the live chat. As I say all the time, and it's the plain truth that when it comes right down to it, we're going to talk football regardless. So the wholesome one and I, we could go on all afternoon, but you guys ultimately produce the show. You produce the show because I get all the questions. And I scan the live chat, get all those questions and comments at the wholesome one, and certainly I have some things to say along the way as well. Yeah, this barbecue has become a bit of a tradition here in the last few years for Miami, and it's become a big deal. A lot of top guys there, and just volumes of guys there, dozens.
Just dozens of some of the best young men, especially because geographically we're close to some of the best players within that 1 mile radius of some of the best players in high school football. So we were able to have some of the in the chat's already asking about one of the big ones. MarkRogers was there. You also had Julian Armella, who was there. So you got some of these big name young men and dozens of others. You have some from the 2023, Santana Fleming and some of those young men. So nice to see them in the uniforms right in front of that big U. The other thing that's kind of cool is seeing it. It was kind of like business-like, weird, and I explain why I say that. A lot of our coaches, was sitting there with arms folded with the serious look on their face. Just it's about business. Of course, they had the smiles with the mom and the dad, but when the player came up, it's the serious look. Coach Red Lashley. And even to see some of the offensive linemen now that we're bringing in now, Garrett Justice, a former Division I West Virginia offensive tackle, who's about 6'4", 6'5" himself, and now the offensive linemen that we're bringing into the table are either his height or taller. So that's really big time for us and what we're doing at Miami. But it's just so great to be able to have recruiting again for the first time in almost really a year. To see some of those unofficial visits and to see him put on a uniform and just look happy, throw that U up with the gloves. I'm happy we didn't break out the chain. I feel like we shouldn't break out the chain for just visits. That's just me, though. But it's nice to see the young men in our uniforms and be happy and just to see stuff like hashtag the crib or going by the crib today. I'll be at the U today. Just happy to see those young men have that opportunity there. Again, and I think it was such a great, I like that great comment there by Chris Mitchell. Barbecue was a great success. Yes, it was. You had people who were happy to be around Miami. I don't even think we had one negative comment from being there. So I'm not necessarily saying Miami's going to win the ACC. Miami's going to have the number one recruiting class. No, but it's great to start building those relationships physically again. Be able to shake hands and look those young men in the eyes. Get a feel for them. Hey, you've been in the weight room or you've been eating. How did you spend COVID-19? How did you spend 2020? Were you out there running in the backyard? Did you find the nearest park and keep your conditioning up? Or did you sit inside and eat, strawberry cake and cookies all day long? And blew up and now your body fat percentage is high. So it's just a lot of that type of stuff was happening too. Just great to see all the smiles and positive energy in the Carroll Sofa for the University of Miami and our current and future recruits.
Got the wholesome one here for the next 50 minutes or so to talk Miami football. The barbecue's in the books, but a ton of visitation weekends for the rest of the month of June. We all know what the deal's been. We've been talking it up for months and months and months with the dead period over. Visits all over the place. Key time for recruits. Visits. Attract them, allure them, do everything you can to build those relationships, but and then also show off the facilities and the vision of the program and the team and what they have to offer across the board. Football first, but then obviously depending on the student athlete, the academics, whatever else that they're looking for in experience for the next 4 years or so. All right, I'm going to get this one straight here. So just to set up this question, the wholesome one. So we got 1804 hurricane. He complained 3 times. The first one starting at 1. We weren't on time. Where y'all at? I thought, what time zone are you in? Yes, it is our aim to be on time. Of course, we don't want to be late. We need to be on time. But if you could see, number one, after traveling 600 miles yesterday, the makeshift studio I put together here at my mom's house, the wholesome one's giving of his time. It seems to me like it's a pretty decent trade-off for being 2 minutes late, that you get great information and entertainment and insight into the program for free. So I personally wouldn't complain about that. I wouldn't be a knucklehead and complain about that.
The other thing, Mark, about it is the crazy. When I looked on my email originally, there was nothing there. I hit refresh and it said 8:58 a.m. I'm like, well, why wasn't this here earlier?
Well, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. You can't always explain the technology. I can send an email, so I've got to send an email to pull someone with a link. Well, it may take 4 minutes to get there, or it may take 4 seconds to get there. We can't control that. So hang on there, 1804 hurricane. I appreciate that you're here, but to complain 3 times and then ask a question, goodness gracious. Do y'all think we need to go after offensive linemen from those beefy states like the Midwest or so?
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. I'll answer this question. All right, Mark. So here, listen. 1804. Presumably, okay. When you think of Wisconsin, you think of Nebraska, you think of Iowa, not necessarily the Dakotas, for what a lot of people know. You don't really think about the best prospects. Maybe even sometimes you go to Ohio, you want to talk about Illinois sometimes. That's some people call it the Midwest, but now you're creeping to the eastern side a little bit more. Okay. Michigan. A lot of people presume, because those colleges produce some of the best offensive linemen, that out of high school, these young men are just some of the best offensive linemen on the team. And I can understand the perception of that. And for a good portion, you are correct. I truly believe that Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia already, Florida, and Texas, all those states in the southeastern region produce the same caliber of offensive linemen. They just don't pick Miami. It's just that simple. Evan Neal is from Dade County, went up to IMG Academy, and guess where he is? Alabama. Okay. Alex Leatherwood is from Florida. He just went 17th overall to the Raiders, and he's ready to go. Alabama. Dumerville, one of the top 5 offensive tackles, a 5-star, was from where? St. Thomas Aquinas, which is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Okay. Now, Georgia had Isaiah Wilson, and I can't think of the other young man's name, but a couple drafts ago, they had 2, the left and right, first-round offensive tackles, and they're from Georgia. You get what I'm saying? So the perception of the Midwest, just having these great beefy offensive linemen, a lot of them come with having to join such a great tradition and having to join such a great program. When they come out about 6'5", 6'4", some of them, Mark, are playing 9-man ball. I don't even know if y'all know that 9-man ball is a thing. Yeah, it is. Some of them are out there not even playing full 11 on 11. Okay, they're playing 9-man football in some instances. But guess what? When they go to Iowa, when they go to Wisconsin, or they go to Minnesota or whatever, you don't see them until their redshirt sophomore, redshirt junior year, when they completely reshape their body. Their technique is A1, and they're 6'6", and they're also a part of one of the best offensive line traditions in college football. So it makes them look even that much better. Not necessarily saying that they're bad, but it's just, if that same young man would have came and played at the University of Florida or came and played at the University of Miami, who knows if they would have been the exact same player, because the tradition of the offensive line is not the same. The attention to detail, the level of coaching, the level of personal development and player development from the day that they walk in is just not the same at the University of Miami as it is to some of those Midwestern places where you really perceive them to be offensive line factories. Okay. So that, I understand people think, what, you need the big country boys from the Midwest come on down, and I get that. Number one, if they're a highly ranked offensive lineman and Miami goes in and they want to recruit an offensive lineman, the best offensive lineman in the state of Iowa, which one do you think that dude is going to pick? Iowa's been producing offensive and defensive linemen for decades. That's what they do. You have your occasional cornerback. You have your occasional maybe a tight end. They've gotten recently good off tight end. But you could go back to the early 2000s of what they have done. With tackles, guards, centers, and 3 techniques. 1 techniques. A big-time offensive line and defensive line play, especially interior guys. I mean, Tristan Wirfs, at 22 years old, was an all-pro and a Super Bowl champion, the highest-rated right tackle in the NFL. Rookie from where? Iowa. So, in Wisconsin, their program is just, they are in the Big Ten. They'll probably never beat Ohio State, but that program is they big time. They're a top 10, top 12 program. They'll never have the skill position guys to get over the top, but just what a great program. They're not really individual prospects where, you got to see this Wisconsin linebacker. It's like, no, you got to see this Wisconsin defense. You got to see this Wisconsin team. You got to see how they match up against these 4 or 5 stars from Ohio State. But it's such a great game because they just are older players who've been coached up. It's just a different culture. It's a different brand of ball that is played in those states from high school all the way up, from Pop 1 all the way up. And it really works there. So I understand yet again the perception of people believing that Miami, or I can only really speak for Miami, but a lot of our fans think we got to go to the Midwest and bring these big country young men instead of understanding if we have a better program, we can recruit within our own state or within our own region and be just fine. We just got to have a better product on the football field. And, you wouldn't have a 6'1" left guard anymore or a 6'4" 2-star left tackle if you have a better program. So, and it's just how it is.
I've been saying for years that I've been so impressed that I can't even describe to what level. I'm going to take this to another degree, and I'm going to go Army, Navy, Air Force, that those young men, number one, that they can't have, especially at Air Force, a certain weight to be able to play big-time football. They can only recruit a certain weight, number one. Number two, if you know anything about what's demanded of those young men, their focus is not football. That's not their priority. But they still have to play on a big-time level. They still play all these Power 5 programs and play in strong Group of 5 conferences. So I tell you, I have always been impressed with how well they compete on the field, that they regularly compete at a top 40 to 50 level. But to take the Wholesome One's point, let's move that on to Wisconsin, Iowa, Stanford. So Stanford and Michigan State were able to do it for a period of time. D'Antonio really had that thing rolling for about 7-8 years, where they were a top 5 to 10 team in the nation, and they were recruiting 35, 40 in the rankings, and Stanford was able to do it. Harbaugh, then into David Shaw. But Wisconsin's really been the gold standard because they've been doing this for now 30 years, and they win consistently. It's always 10-2, 9-3 with them. And so don't call me out for them going 7-5 a few years ago. I'm talking in general. Yes, I understand once in a while they'll go 7-5, but basically they're going 10-2, 9-3 every year. And to do that with, recruiting classes that are 35, 40 in the nation consistently, it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Terrence,
I
yes.
personally know the new Iowa offensive line coach. We have a good relationship, if you all know what I mean. we've had previous interactions. If you all know what I mean, that's all I'm going to say.
Yes, I do. I do. Terrence Templeton, thank you so much for the super chat. So this is what we like to see, a little appreciation. I'm not even talking about the super chat, but thank you for that so much. But just to say, hey, I got a question for you, and appreciate the content. Go Canes, appreciate the content. Which player do we need the most that attended the event this week? There were like 40 guys there.
That's a great question. Man, I'm gonna just give you a flat out answer. Julian Armella. You had Kamari Rogers, you had Shamar Stewart, some of the best, biggest name prospects attend this. But Mark, and it goes to what we just spoke about. Oh wow, it's 2:11 a.m. Good God, hey, good to see you, man. Thank you so much for being
here. Can't miss us. Good stuff.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
It's Mark. We just talked about the big guys. As much as this game has become spread and open and speed, we've talked about in the past how that was viewed as just this soft brand of football, and they only do that in the Big 12, and they only do that out west, and now everyone in college football does that stuff. Mark, it went from only being Group of 5 football or FCS football. Then it turned into it's Pac-12. Then it started bleeding into the Big 12, and then the SEC took hold of it. I want to say the Big 10 got it first because Ohio State's been spread for probably a little over a decade now too. Speed first and using all 53 in the third as opposed to running down and playing real man ball. Good God. Simple-minded people, and I used to think that way too. But we grow as people. We grow. And you got to be able to get the big young man, okay? You got to get the big young men. It's just that simple. You have to be able to land those who can hold off the pass rushers, who can plug the gap pluggers. Okay, you got to be able to get the inverse. You got to get the pass rushers. You also got to get people who are, who can take on double teams. You got to start being able to grab the 6'4" defensive tackle from Melbourne, Florida, out in the country of Florida. You got to be able to go up and hold down a young man at St. Thomas Aquinas who's a 6'5" top-rated offensive tackle in the country. He wants to go either to Florida or Alabama. Okay. You gotta be able to grab him, and it's just that simple. And that's why my pick is Julian Armella as the one that we would need who attended this event.
Wholesome One, if I miss anything that you're saying today, I just have a little bit different of a setup, and here's the deal. So I'm usually running through an earpiece, and I've got a mic and the whole deal. So my laptop speaker blew out a couple months ago. So anything I don't listen to that doesn't go through an earpiece, if I'm just listening on the speaker, you know how when a speaker blows out and it's like over-modulated and it's got all this humming, that's what you sound like to me. So I can hear you. What's most important is everybody else can hear you. But yeah, I am listening to you through a blown-out speaker. So we're doing the best we can. All right, we've got Negus on the line talking to the defensive coaching staff. And with the players currently on the roster on the defensive side, do we have enough to realistically be, at bare minimum, a 10-win team?
This has kind of been the talk, Mark, of the Miami Hurricanes program for about a decade. Every time, Mark, we grab the paperwork and we look at it and say, show me the losses. 10-2. I mean, Miami shouldn't be losing to Virginia, Duke, or Georgia Tech, or maybe Tech or Tallahassee. Those are only 2 losses I see on here. 10-2 every year. That's what we perceive. Okay, but I think the growth on the defensive side of the ball having Coach Manny Diaz take over this defense, him also having the ability to rub shoulders and sit and scheme with the minds of an Ed Reed, with the minds of T-Rob, really helping his scheme, and Coach Stephen Fields, who just came from the NFL, really helping his scheme grow. I'm hoping that he's willing to listen and maybe even take some of their advice and change his viewpoints on some things, because I think there is some talent there. Is it the elite talent? I would only say we have elite talent at the safety position. We're solid at corner, a little subpar at defensive end, above average at defensive tackle, poor at linebacker, pretty good at striker. So we only really have above passing grades at striker and at safety, in my opinion. If you want to add up depth plus production, I would only really say the two positions that I'm not really worried about is free and strong safety and striker. I have a little bit of my worry when it comes to cornerback. I have a little bit of worry when it comes to defensive end. And, of course, Nasty Nestor holds it down at D-tackle. But who next to him is going to step up? Whether that's Jordan Miller, whether that's John Ford, whether that's Leonard Taylor, whether that's Harrison Hunt, whether that's Elijah Roberts. We have a nice pool of guys that we can wait and see what happens. But very, very worried about linebacker and second corner opposite of Tyreek Stevenson and defensive end. So I think that we have the talent to at least go undefeated in the Coastal, excluding UNC, even though I think that it'll be a really good game. But I think we have a team, especially defensive-wise, to win every other game in the Coastal with no problem. Reaching 10 wins, we'll see. But as of right now, to answer your question, I would say I'm a little iffy when it comes to the depth. That's my issue.
I am trying to pull up the the internet. I have installed internet here at my mom's house just in the last few hours, so we're still working through some bugs. But anyway, I wanted to pull someone to get you the list of players who went to the barbecue and who visited this past weekend, and then maybe have you pick and choose guys that stand out to you in regards to who you've seen and who you wanted to highlight. So I will attempt to do that here soon. If I can get this up and running.
No problem. No problem.
All right. Okalak Kane. What if we pick Bryson off twice in the first half? Oh, he's forecasting the first half of the Alabama game. Okay. Pick off Bryce Young. It would be Bryce Young twice in the first half, and we're up 13 at halftime. Does that mean Nick Saban is on his heels? Does he pull Bryce?
Okay, I'll.
That would be a good problem to have, but why don't? I would think that wholesome one, not to cut you off, but I'll just say what I have to say before you get started. I think Miami should be just basically concerned with their own coaching decisions and how they need to prepare and play the game, not be concerned with what Nick Saban's going to do if he's down 13 points.
And that's the other thing is I can see how you can perceive some of these things to happen, and you also have to understand Coach Diaz is very young. Even if you added up almost all the years on the staff right now, it wouldn't even equal half of what a lot of the staff is at Alabama in their years of coaching. So I've been told that I'm a Alabama fan and I'm a homer for Alabama because I really love Nick Saban. I like the Alabama program. So I just, when it comes to this game, it's like, hey man, listen. I think we're going to go out there and give it the best that we can. If we are able to pick him off twice, I mean, I honestly don't see a scenario where he would not pull Bryce if it's not working well. Okay, if you look back to 2016, I believe, off the top of my head, Alabama played USC at Jerry's World, Now, Jalen Hurts went on to be the starter for the rest of the year, but he did not start that game. It was another big-time five-star QB who started that
Blake
game.
Barnett?
Yeah, it might have been Blake Barnett. Yeah, and they were playing both of them, and then he got pulled for Hurts. Hurts goes in and fumbles on the first snap and throws an interception, and they put other dude back in. He throws. So they were going back and forth. So the best thing that you can do in these early games versus Alabama, that's your best chance at getting them, especially in the between the QB change. So at the end of the day, man, I kind of have to put my hands in there with that one.
I know this is only one game example, but pretty much Alabama's proven this for 13 years under Nick Saban. That game in particular, this shows you the Alabama machine. They're fumbling around with who to play at quarterback, just like the wholesome one outlined. They even get into a situation, Jalen Hurts fumbles the first time he gets into the game, and this is after Blake Barnett started, and had he played well, then he's playing, or they had some kind of approach or plan as to how much to play each one of them. Anyway, they don't get off to the best start in this game. They're playing USC. They win 52-6. That USC team, now granted, that USC team was figuring things out too. Sam Darnold didn't start the game. He turns out to be a great player, obviously. They win the Rose Bowl. That USC team, okay, they had their quarterback issues. They were figuring things out too. Darnold didn't play. So sure, had they played later, I'm sure it would have been a better game. But still, we're talking about USC talent on the other side. 52-6, that USC team won the Rose Bowl and finished number 3 in the country.
And you also talk about a USC team that had a Dory Jackson on it,
yes,
that had Smith-Schuster on it, that had a couple first-round offensive linemen. They were pretty good. That's one of the games I like watching in preparation for this game, Mark. I watched the Louisville game from a couple years ago when they were transitioning to Tua Tagovailoa. So, and they necessarily didn't get really struggled, but they kind of rolled them. You know for a fact they're going to be very dependent on the run game for a while there, until they can kind of fill out Bryce Young, in my opinion. When you watch a couple of these transitional QB years or first game of the year games, neutral site games, they really lean on that run game, and then they start bringing in the QB slowly but surely. But as much as I think that way, and then they come out and go 4 wide on us the first play of the game, who knows? So you have to be prepared. And the biggest thing is to understand that you have to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, a plan E, a plan F. You have to be able to go real deep in that bag and know who you are, know what your faults are, know what your weaknesses are, and try your hardest to be able to hide them in those big games. Because when you play in Alabama, when you play in North Carolina, when you play at Clemson, if we're blessed to go to a big-time bowl game and play in Ohio State or play in Georgia, they're going to know your weaknesses, and they're going to try their hardest to exploit them. So you have to, over time, start finding ways to hide them, whether it be, hey, we got a really subpar second corner. But when we do get him matched up in man coverage, that's also the time that we're sending a blitz. So hopefully we can get to the QB before he's able to find that one-on-one matchup with our subpar second corner, or things of that nature. Or let's say, for example, we have a very iffy middle linebacker. We're sending a double outside linebacker blitz, and we're dropping him to the middle of the field. Hopefully, we're able to get to the QB before that tight end clears on a seam, or before the wide receiver clears on a drag, and our linebacker is one-on-one with one of them in open space. So you really have to try to figure out how to hide and mask some of your issues.
Did I miss? I need to make sure I didn't miss a super chat. Thought something came through there. All right. I'm going to run down the official visits from last weekend. You stop me when you hear a player you'd like to highlight.
Let's do it.
Okay. Bear with me a little bit. They're not in a list here. I got to sort through a bunch of paragraphs. But we've got Oxford, Alabama, 4-star cornerback Traquan Fagans. We've got Lafayette, Louisiana Christian Academy, 3-star cornerback Jordan Allen. Fort Myers, Florida, 4-star athlete cornerback Chris Graves.
Oh, we can stop right there if you want to talk about Chris Graves. So Chris Graves today tweets out, Miami's treating me like a 5-star. So that was really good to be able to hear that the young man is really appreciating the love. He likes it. I think he's Miami caliber. By no means, I'm saying he's not this level. I think he's kind of on that tier 2 as opposed to the tier 1. We got the big 5-star dudes, but he fits our system. And I love the way that he plays on tape. So he's one of the young men I want to have in there. I just had a quick story about him from just a couple, maybe like 30 minutes ago. Before we hopped on, he tweeted that out, and Kane's Twitter is loving it because, you know, it feels good to have a young man feel that way about your program. And he'd be good enough to play here. You know, it's not like he's not and we're overhyping him. No, he's qualified to be here. And it's good that he's feeling the love for the program.
You hit on something interesting there because you have certain interactions, and most of the interactions I got to think between the student athlete, the recruit, and the coaches is a one-on-one. But then there are situations like this where you got dozens and dozens of players. And are those players going to feel as though, okay, I'm looking around here, I see some 5-stars, I see a ton of 4-stars, I see some of us 3-stars. Are we in any way being treated differently, given less attention?
And it happens, man. It happens. To have a young man who was sitting there with some of the best in our region. I mean, you got some from Louisiana, you got some from Georgia came down, but within our region, some taller than him, faster than him, stronger than him. And for him to feel like they treat me like a 5-star too, that just shows how good of a people our staff is, and not just our staff as far as the coaches, but the recruiting staff and player personnel, things of that nature, and treating the young man with such great respect and love. That means a lot, man, especially to his mother or his parent, guardians, whatever. To have a young man feel that way, it's really good.
Look at this guy, wholesome one. Ronan's here.
Ronan's rich, man. Ronan is rich.
Ronan's the man.
So much, man. He's always supporting all the channels, especially in the YouTube and the U universe. He's always there showing love, and then we have our blessed opportunities to be on here with you. He always comes through also. So we appreciate you, Ronan. Thank you.
Ronan, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that so much. And Ronan does some things behind the scenes as well, and encouragement, support, so forth. So Ronan, we appreciate you. Says, turns out noon Eastern live works out great on this side of the Atlantic. That strikes me amazing at times, wholesome one, when you just noted somebody who was watching us from where? Australia? Is that where it was?
From Australia.
We got Ronan across the Atlantic. It's amazing.
It is 2 a.m. where that other guy was. Oh, my Lord.
Ronan says, hit the like. Don't forget to join Mark on Patreon. Ronan's always pushing the Patreon. Thank you so much for that, Ronan. It's 16 cents a day, about $5 a month. And we do exclusive live streams there. Watch parties. You get my predictions there exclusively. I have a ton of things that I'm working on for this summer. I'll just say it this way, that I have a meeting again with a web developer this Saturday, so I don't want to let out everything that I have planned because, as they say, wholesome one, undersell and over-deliver. So I sometimes tend, this is one of my big faults in life. This is one of my big weaknesses. I tend to bite off more than I can chew. I tend to try to think I can do everything at once. So
we all do, buddy.
I won't say what we're working on, but we've got a lot of big plans. So a lot of that ties into the Patreon platform and what we're going to do with the voiceofcollegefootball.com. And everybody on Patreon, we're going to treat you right and get you moved on over if it comes to that. So we appreciate that, Ronan. All right, next player. Federal Way, Washington, 4-star offensive tackle Malik Agbo came all the way across the country.
Let's go.
What's that?
I was just giving them a let's go, coming all the way across the country. Rep that U.
Fort Lauderdale, 3-star linebacker Omar Graham. We got Henderson, Nevada, Liberty 3-star athlete Anthony Jones. We've got Fort Valley, Georgia, Peach County 3-star defensive tackle Quintel Jones. Don't want to confuse this with other prospects who were visiting elsewhere that are going to visit Miami, but we'll go that route. So anyway, I'm trying to pull this information together. So this is apparently a number of guys that are hosting at Miami this month, but they just happen to go somewhere else this past weekend. But hey, I know you got something to say about 5-star edge Shamar Stewart.
We can stop right there, Mark. He would be second on my list. If you were to say, host him, give me a top 3. As far as Musket, would really like, and kind of a hope. Musket, Armello, Julian Armello. Really like Shamar Stewart. Hopeful would be Earl Little Jr. for me. So I'll stay at that second tier with Shamar Stewart. For me right now, and I get a little integral, but strong side defensive end is very important to the 4-2-5 scheme. So I'll explain to you all what strong side defensive end for those who do not know. So strong side defensive end is the defensive end that goes up against the right tackle. He's on the left side of the defense, but the right side of the offense. Okay. Now, naturally, people would think that defensive end is always about pass rush, quick moves, getting to the QB. It is. But you have to have a little bit more of a balanced player to play on that right side, going up against the right tackle. Why? Because historically, most teams run right. Their best run blockers are on the right side. Their best pass blockers are on the left side of the offense, right? Hence being, if I have a right-handed QB, his blind side is the left side. So the better of the pass blocker of the two guards, I put at the left to make sure that when my QB takes that quick step, he's not exposed to a pass rusher because I got my best on that side. So you're looking at more of a taller, the more stout, excluding a Von Miller. He's one of the only ones that I've seen who's about 6'3", 240 pounds, who's almost pass rush first. I think he is just all pass rush. He can stop and run, but he's a pass rusher, but he plays strong side defensive end, right? So Shamar Stewart, I think if you were to walk on our field right now, is arguably one of the best. Man. One of the best strong side defensive ends already on the team. Here's the thing. You look at a young man like Jafari Harvey, number 12 for Miami. Okay. I think his attributes go more for a weak side defense. He's a pass rush first kind of guy, very quick, fast, quick twitch, can get up the football field, right? But this year, I think he's going to have to start on the strong side because we don't really have anyone else. You got 53. You also have Johnson from Tennessee. You have Cam Williams. And you have Jafari Harvey. Those are your 4 defensive ends. So we have to be able to find somebody on that strong side. Moving forward, going into next year, I think Shamar Stewart can either make the 2 deep or start for Miami as a true freshman, as a strong side defensive end because of what he brings to the table. Now, you match up what he already has, being a power first guy, and the way that he can take those first 2 steps, but he gets inside those offensive tackles and he extends. boom, he extends, he gets them off of him. It's not like Mark, where a pass rush guy, as soon as he gets up the field, he's waiting to hit a swim, he's working the double swipe, he's working spins. No, Shamar Stewart is taking men, a young man, to the backfield, disengaging from them instantly, and making TFLs. He's more of a power first guy. So um, that's where my mind is when it comes to Shamar Stewart. I think he should be, if not number one on our big board, he has to be number two. We got to keep landing those the big young men. We got to keep landing the big, strong young men in South Florida. Man. You can't have Alabama or Georgia or Florida come down and be plucking those body types out of our local players. Because if that's where we want to be again, on the level of a Georgia, on the level of a LSU, on the level of an Ohio State, you got to be able to keep those big young men home.
We've got the wholesome one here. Take advantage. Ask your comments, your questions. We get him every week. I love it. This is a great time when we get with him each and every, typically on Thursday. So this is one of the big reasons why you subscribe. Hit the bell for the notifications. That way you know when we're going live, when we've got to change up the schedule. And if you are not subscribed to the Wholesome One's channel, Wholesome One, HOLSUM, the number one, just type it into the search bar there on YouTube and subscribe and lock it in over there as well. Martin, hypothetical for you. How would you deploy if Miami were to sign the big four defensive ends, Jones, Shamar, Nigelak, and Dante?
Can I get a GA position, Coach Diaz? I would love it to be able to work with those four young men. And I love the way that he put hypothetically, because I definitely don't think that this would happen. It would take something really big for Miami to land all four of these big time, not only Power 5 starters, but you're talking about your ACC, borderline SEC. A couple of them are SEC caliber guys already. Okay. If we were to be able to do something like that, I think all of the defensive ends on our roster right now would be in big trouble. And that's just no disrespect, but and I'm not saying that they would necessarily lose their jobs, but everybody except for Jafari Harvey will be on notice. You know, not saying that they lose a scholarship and we check them out the door. No, but I'm just saying that they would be on notice for PT if you land all four of them. You're talking about some long, some very educated, some technically sound, strong young men, local guys too. Man. That would be great. But hey, thank you for the fantasy. Feels like I'm over here playing NCAA 14, and it feels good that way, Mark.
Yeah, that would be a pretty awesome sight.
Whew. Mark, listen, I'll be on here in tears. Mark, we did it! We did it, Mark! I tell you what, Mark, I'm happy that, I hopped into YouTube in 2018, because if I was on here in 2017 and we did Notre Dame like that, oh my Lord, Mark, you would have had to cut the lead. You would have had to cut the feed. You would have had to cut the feed. I would have loved it. I told you. Yeah, but that's Mark. What I was speaking, I'll go into something else here too. This might get into a long soliloquy. It may not. That's okay. I talked about this on my H1H podcast. Drops every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the H1H channel. This year is so important for Miami. Now, we always talk about how Miami is not unrealistic, it's not irrelevant, and Miami is it's a relevant program, but it isn't nationally. We have that debate a lot, right? Mark, when these young men, class of 22, when they were freshmen in high school, do you know what year that was, Mark?
The 2020 class, the 2020, the class
right now. Rising seniors. Do you know what year they were freshmen? 2018.
Sure.
Miami was losing at home by 20-2. Okay. Miami was one of the most underwhelming and embarrassing teams in college football. We started out with LSU, got shellacked. Didn't even look like we belonged. We went on a road losing to Virginia. Our coach retires from a broken heart. It was just all type of crazy stuff. Now, when these young men were in middle school, 2016, they were in the 7th grade, and in 2017, they were in the 8th grade. Okay, so Miami is on the rise. I wouldn't even be surprised if there's not some pictures of these young men on their Instagram or on their Twitter with the turnover chain on, with the going crazy when they were young. Because while they were growing up, they looked at Miami as on this turnaround. It broke the Tallahassee streak, just won 10 games, won a bowl game. It's on the rise. They become freshmen in high school, and Miami plummets. They become sophomores in high school in 2019, and Miami's losing to teams like La Tech, FIU, Duke for the second year in a row. Okay. But then, as rising juniors, as juniors, and Miami starts to get things rolling. Miami starts to switch to the spread full time, hiring a spread coach. Miami has had the 4-2-5 defense, but they make a couple of changes on the offense, get rid of some of those guys. Miami goes out and has a solid season at 8-3, right? But when they were on the same field as some of the big teams, it didn't look like they were on par. You got to go out there and have a 10-plus win season. Because in order to change the minds of the rising seniors, rising juniors, rising sophomores, you have to be able to change the perception of that you have to change what they see when they look at it, Mark. You don't want them to turn around and we go another 8 wins or 9 wins, and they go, yeah, it's just the same old you from when I was a freshman or a sophomore. They haven't changed anything. They're still rebuilding. You have to go out there. This is the year. Because the University of Florida, in state, they're going to take a big step. They lost a lot. Okay, Georgia is, they're taking steps forward. So you have a chance to be the best team in the state. Tallahassee is still down. They won't always be down. So you better take advantage of it while it's happening. Okay, you have the chance to be the best in the state. You and UCF. And a lot of the young men who are down there and having their relationships with Miami right now aren't really considering UCF, even though Gus Malzahn is there with a pretty good freaking staff, okay? You have a chance to be the best in the state. You look at that schedule, you have a chance to go undefeated or one loss in the post. To where you lose one out-of-conference game, you lose one conference game. If my math is correct, adding up to 12, Mark, that is 10-2. And it is unfortunate because if Miami is not successful, if Miami is not focused, if Miami can't go 13 weeks straight playing at a high percentage, and you'll have down games, you'll have down quarters, you'll have down halves, you got to be able to still pull through, okay, as a program, as a team, but you got to be able to pull it together this year. It's a very integral year to see if we can take that next step. And we may not, even if we do hit the week mark, we may not still land a couple of those 5 stars. But those sophomores who are becoming juniors are paying attention. Those freshmen who are becoming sophomores are paying attention. And it's okay. Let's see what Miami does this year. Let's see what Miami does next year. Okay, when it's my turn to become a senior, are they still on the same level, or did they fall down again? That's where you have to be very careful. And I get passionate about it because recruiting isn't just about this year. Recruiting is about 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, and having the right perception and respect level for your program to where the uncles ain't trash talking you. even though the defensive coordinator in high school might be a Tallahassee fan or a Gator fan or a Bama fan, or he's from Louisiana, so he's an LSU fan, he can still say, hey, man, that you carries weight. They're building something nice over there. They have a great coaching camps and bringing us on campus. That they got a good program. I trust sending my young man to that institution and to that football program. And that's why I'm hoping Coach D is going to take us.
Mr. HD, we love you being here, but really, he's getting on somebody else. He's getting on our North Carolina guy for the 4th and 17 from 2 years ago, plus the fluke game that North Carolina played last year. So,
you know, Mark, at the end of the day, you know how I feel about North Carolina. I have a lot of respect for them. I watched that UNC Texas A&M Orange Bowl game, and I was rooting hard for Texas A&M. I couldn't have those people destroy. I couldn't have North Carolina destroy us in the home stadium, and then win the Orange Bowl in the home stadium before we win the Orange Bowl. No, I couldn't. No, couldn't have that happen. But Mark, you can say the same thing about the way we beat Tallahassee those 2 years, 17 and 18. You know, we didn't really create separation until 19 and then shattered them in 20. But you look at, we had the fade route, which you could call, you know, magical or fluke. That year in 2018, we had a monstrous 21-point comeback. You could call that a fluke too. So at the end of the day, how do we go out and handle it? That's all that matters.
We get the wholesome one here every Thursday. Typically, we had to change things up. Blame me this Friday. So there he is doing his thing, laying down the knowledge. Love it.
Yep.
So contribute to the wholesome one. Head on over to his channel. Get locked in on those videos, those live streams. Hit the like button. Contribute. Do everything that you possibly can to support what he does over there. We appreciate you being here as always. Everybody out there, wholesome one, you make this happen, so thank you. I'm headed over to talk Ohio State on the Ohio State channel in just about 2 minutes as soon as I can turn this thing around. Wholesome one, you have a great weekend, man.
Thank you. Wish you to have a great rest of your show, great rest of your week. Hopefully you get some rest because, brother, you look tired. Good days, man. Appreciate you guys.